Joining us now is Congressman Jim Banks of Indiana. Congressman, thanks so much for taking time to talk with me and stepping out of the Armed Services Committee hearing today. The House Armed Services Committee taking up the National Defense Authorization Act. This is the measure in which we've heard a lot about the Republicans holding the administration accountable for what is and what has unfolded in Afghanistan. Give us the latest on what's happening in committee today.
Well, Tony, first of all, Kevin McCarthy, the Republican leader, called every Republican member of the House who is a veteran back to Washington this week, about somewhere between 40 and 50 of us and a few of the ranking members of the relevant committees. And we spent all day on Monday and Tuesday. We spent time in meetings being briefed about what's going on in Afghanistan. We spent time in the SCIF with classified briefings about Afghanistan. We went down to the floor yesterday and demanded votes and an opportunity when session was open yesterday. Not a single Democrat showed up except for the one who was in the chair for the Speaker. The Speaker of the House is MIA. She's nowhere. Nancy Pelosi is nowhere to be found, but we've been hard at work doing everything that we can to strategize as Republican members of Congress what we can do to bring every American home safely and hold the Biden administration accountable for the catastrophe that they've caused in Afghanistan. Just so happens that today is the markup, the annual markup of the National Defense Authorization Act, the only bill that we pass every year related to the military. And throughout the evening, probably late into the night, early morning hours, we're going to be debating a number of amendments about Afghanistan, probably most importantly, designating whether or not we should designate the Taliban as a foreign terrorist organization. Turns out that they're not. The Taliban of Pakistan is, ISIS is, but now the administration, you have General Milley and Secretary Austin appearing before the cameras this morning and talking about how we're going to work with the Taliban. Even Jake Sullivan, the National Security Advisor, hinting that we're going to give money to the Taliban. Not only is it good enough that the Biden administration handed over the keys to the country to the Taliban, but now it sounds like this administration wants to reward them. And many of us, especially on the Republican side, believe that that would be a big mistake and are going to fight to name the Taliban a foreign terrorist organization to block it.
I assume that there will also be some discussions about the material that was left behind, the weapons that are now in the hands of the Taliban?
Absolutely. That's a big part of our many of the amendments that we've offered this evening. And a really important bill, by the way, that my friend Mike Gallagher from Wisconsin went down to the microphone yesterday on the floor and was gavelled down. The speaker designee wouldn't even recognize Mike Gallagher to give us a vote on a bill to do just that, to account for the equipment. Nearly $85 billion worth of vehicles, weapons and ammunition, medical supplies, night vision goggles, a whole lot of other things. By the way, Tony, when I was deployed to Afghanistan, this is what I was a part of, the train, advise, and equip mission to give this equipment to the Afghan army and the Afghan police to fight against the Taliban. But because of the hasty withdrawal, the negligence, the stupidity of the Biden administration, all of that material has ended up in the hands of the Taliban. There was never a plan to evacuate it, to destroy it, to prevent it from falling into the hands of our enemy. And even worse, it's not bad enough that the Taliban has it. I guarantee you the ISIS-K, which makes the Taliban look like a Mickey Mouse organization, is going to end up with a lot of this equipment as well. And ultimately they'll use it, I fear, against Americans who are trapped there or against Americans who have to go back into Afghanistan in the future to eradicate the ISIS-K threat that's developed on Joe Biden's watch.
Congressman, before I have to let you, go back to committee, there are other issues that are going to be addressed in the National Defense Authorization Act, or the NDAA, one of which you're going to address, and that is how the military is being targeted with this critical race theory.
Yeah, I'm going to offer an amendment here in the next few hours that would ban critical race theory from being pushed on our troops. There's no place in our schools and definitely in our military for critical race theory, but we have some of the nation's top officers. General Milley came before an Armed Services Committee and talked about how he was really interested in learning more about white rage, and he was pushing critical race theory. Tony, this isn't sustainable. It's not sustainable to teach the next generation or are men and women who put on the uniform that America is racist or inherently evil and expect that we can sustain this great country. And that's why I'm going to do everything I can to block it. I have a number of co-sponsors of my amendment who are helping me fight it. We're going to force these Democrats to vote with us to ban critical race theory. Has no place in our military. We have an opportunity today to ban it from the military once and for all.
Finally, Congressman Banks, I mean, that speaks to the twisted priorities, I think, of this administration in the military. When we saw what just unfolded in Afghanistan, during that same time, the top enlisted man for the Army pushing diversity the same day that we lost 13 of our men in uniform there in Afghanistan. Is this just the priorities, are they mixed up? And do we need to get back to fighting and winning wars?
It's all about priorities, and the focus of the military on Joe Biden's watch as commander-in-chief has had nothing to do with lethality, with making sure that our men and women downrange have all the tools that they need so that we never fight in a fair fight, that America always has an advantage. That should be the priority. But this administration has been focused on critical race theory, on wokeness in the military, on beating up on people because of their political beliefs, especially if they're on the right, punishing people because of that. That's been the priority of this administration. By the way, this administration believes that anyone who wears the uniform who happened to have voted for Donald Trump in the 2020 election is an extremist.
Yeah.
And that's been their mission, to rid people like you and me and anyone with conservative beliefs out of the military and call it extremism. They've paid a lot more focus and attention on that. General Milley talked more about how he wanted to learn more about white rage, whatever that means, than he ever talked about what the plan was to get out of Afghanistan safely without losing American lives, which we tragically did. So it's all about priorities. This administration has backwards priorities. And in the NDAA markup today, we're going to force their hand on it.
All right, Congressman Jim Banks, always great to talk with you. Thanks so much for taking time to join us today.
Thank you, Tony. Have a good day.